Word of the arrival of a new knight at King Arthur's court was spreading throughout Camelot. He was rumored to be young, strong, and valiant, and his swordsmanship was on par with that of the noblest warriors of the Round Table. His name was Lancelot, who had come from distant lands in pursuit of glory and adventure. Always eager to welcome new champions to his court, Arthur invited Lancelot to a forthcoming tournament. It was the ultimate chance for the young knight to prove his worth and earn a place among the kingdom's bravest. Lancelot enthusiastically accepted the challenge. On the tournament day, he arrived in shining armor and a feathered helmet, riding a steed. His eyes glowed with the flame of youth and ambition. The tournament began, and Lancelot charged into battle with lion-like courage. He swept his opponents off their horses with accurate and powerful blows from his lance, showing uncommon dexterity and strength. Experienced and renowned knights tumbled before his dexterity, and the people were astonished by the skills of this young warrior. Lancelot's reputation grew with each victory. The people acclaimed him from the stands, and the other knights looked on with admiration and respect. Sitting on his throne, Arthur was smiling with satisfaction. He had found a new champion for his court, a warrior fit to sit at the Round Table. Queen Guinevere was also enamored of the young knight, beautiful, strong, and courteous. He looked like the model of the perfect knight. Lancelot dedicated his victory as a tribute to the queen's beauty, charm, and kindness. With every blow landed, every opponent defeated, every drop of sweat shed, everything was in her honor, and he swore he would always be willing to be her defender whenever necessary. As soon as Lancelot arrived at court, he found himself fascinated by Queen Guinevere's beauty and kindness. The admiration was mutual. In turn, the queen perceived in the knight not only strength and bravery, but also a rare nobility of spirit and gentleness. Casual meetings in the castle gardens, conversations at court festivities, glances exchanged during tournaments. A deep and unique friendship flourished between them, woven together by an undeniable attraction that they were both trying to contain. Mindful of their duties and the loyalty they owed to King Arthur, Lancelot and Guinevere struggled to keep that feeling under control, turning passion into admiration, desire into respect. But love grew stronger every day, threatening to break through the barriers of reason and caution. A chilly silence fell over the main hall of Camelot Castle. The merry bustle of the courtiers ceased altogether when a messenger, visibly worn out and covered in dust, entered the room, bringing with him ominous news. With a strained and burdened voice, he proclaimed the capture of Sir Ector and Sir Lionel, both taken prisoner by the cruel Sir Turquine. The news crashed like a thunderbolt through the court, and there was a whisper of astonishment and apprehension in the hall. Lancelot, standing next to the king, was overcome with grief when he heard the name of his brother and cousin. The memory of his friendship and fondness for them both prompted him to act. He approached King Arthur without hesitation, and with a resolute look on his face, asked for permission to ride off and rescue the captive knights. Knowing of Lancelot's bravery and loyalty, Arthur immediately granted him his request. Moved by a sense of urgency, Lancelot wasted no time. He headed to the royal stables, where he chose his fastest and strongest steed and fitted it with his shining armor and sharp sword. Within minutes, he was already riding through the citadel gates, on his way to rescue his relatives. Sir Turquine, the source of all this distress, was reveling in his latest conquest. He was the very opposite of everything a knight should represent. Driven by ruthlessness and a thirst for power, he scorned codes of honor and chivalry, taking delight in subduing and humiliating his opponents. His castle, nestled in an arid and inaccessible region, was more like a prison than a fortress. In his damp, dark cellars, Turquine held captive dozens of knights, most of them knights of Arthur, who had been defeated in battle and stripped of their freedom and dignity. Turquine's reasons were as obscure as his soul. Some said he acted out of pure evil, taking delight in wreaking havoc on people. Others claimed that he sought revenge against King Arthur and his knights, nurturing a deep hatred for the order and justice they represented. Some said that Turquine was fueled by excessive ambition, dreaming of one day destroying the Round Table and taking power for himself. After riding for days through inhospitable and deserted lands, Lancelot finally reached Sir Turquine's dominions. The road, ever darker and more sinister, led through dense forests and rugged valleys, where silence was broken only by crows cawing and the wind howling. As Lancelot came around a bend in the road, he spotted a group of horsemen escorting a young prisoner. Cautiously drawing closer, he spotted the coat of arms on the prisoner's shield. It was Sir Gaheris, one of the youngest knights of the Round Table, and Gawaine's brother. Angered by the sight, Lancelot didn't hesitate to intervene. With a war cry echoing through the hills, he drew his sword and launched into the attack, stunning Gaheris' captors. With one agile movement, Lancelot struck down the first knight, dodged the attack, and, in a sharp counter, defused another opponent, who fell backwards, surprised by his opponent's strength. Yet another knight tried to attack Lancelot, but was met with a sword blow that sent him crashing to the ground. The metallic sound of armor colliding with stone echoed through the valley, blending with the pained cries of the fallen knights. His sword, gleaming in the afternoon sun, danced across the air, tracing a light trail with each blow he struck. Shields were shattered, helmets were battered, and armor was pierced by the relentless blade. The other knights, on seeing Lancelot's ferocity, faltered. Cowardice had already gripped their hearts and they fled. Sir Gaheris admired Lancelot and was in awe of the dexterity of the knight who had just freed him. Lancelot was not just a warrior in his eyes, but an avenging angel, sent to punish those who dared to challenge justice and honor. Anxious to help rescue his brother, and overwhelmed by Lancelot's courage, Gaheris offered to accompany him. But Lancelot, mindful of the dangers that awaited them, declined the offer. However, he proposed a plan. Gaheris would go back to Arthur's court and report the situation to the king, asking him to gather reinforcements and take them to Turquine's castle. In the meantime, Lancelot would infiltrate the fortress and try to release the prisoners. Although unwilling to leave Lancelot alone, Gaheris agreed. With a handshake and a grateful stare, Gaheris said goodbye to Lancelot and set off towards Camelot, while the noble knight headed for Turquine's castle, ready to face evil and rescue his fellow captives.